Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee on Transportation. At this time, we ask if you could please place phones on vibrate or silent mode. Thank you, Chair. We are ready to begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's oversight hearing of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure on electric vehicle infrastructure. New York has experienced the adverse effects of climate change firsthand, as once-in-a-century storms like Hurricane Sandy and Ida continue to devastate the city with alarming regularity. While these storms adversely affect all of us, they have been particularly destructive in outer boroughs, neighborhoods where homes have been destroyed and businesses have been ruined. Most recently, millions of New Yorkers were exposed to dangerous and unhealthy air quality levels as our city was covered in a thick smog caused by drought-induced wildfires. Sadly, environmental injustice is prevalent in our city, with asthma rates disproportionately affecting Black and brown children, as well as those residing in high-poverty neighborhoods. The areas of South Bronx and northern Manhattan have some of the highest death and disease rates from asthma in the country. This persistent inequality is unacceptable and is exacerbated by the environmental hazards such as pollutants from vehicles. The scientific evidence is clear. The burning of fossil fuels contributes to climate change and pollution. In New York City, transportation is responsible for nearly 30% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions, with most of these emissions coming from passenger vehicles. Tragically, each year, over 1,000 deaths occur in our metropolitan area due to poor air quality. The time to act is now. We cannot wait if we want to meet our goal to decarbonize the transportation system by 2050. Increasing the number of electric vehicles, or EVs, in the 5 boroughs is an essential part of the city's effort to achieve its climate reduction goals. However, the promise of reducing reliance on fossil fuels and achieving better environmental outcomes is accompanied by a number of challenges to EV adoption, including the high cost of such vehicles and the lack of infrastructure to support vehicle charging in the city. While the city has made significant progress in electrifying its own vehicle fleet, it is continuing to install additional EV chargers for private vehicles. There is much more work to be done. That work must proceed with equity in mind. As of today, most EV charging stations are located within Manhattan, despite vehicle ownership being more concentrated in the outer boroughs. Moreover, EV charging stations are currently concentrated in only a select few council districts. This is not a chicken or egg situation. Proper EV infrastructure must come first, which in turn will encourage private adoption. New Yorkers, including those in the outer boroughs, are ready to embrace electric vehicles, but the infrastructure needed to achieve this is lacking. Today, we will hear from the Department of Transportation and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, also known as DCAS, who will testify before the committee. The committee hopes to hear what this administration is doing to address the inequitable placement of EV infrastructure, as well as updating us on the city's electric vehicle vision plan and the city's curbside level 2 charging pilot program. We also hope to hear how DOT will implement the mayor's recent commitment to ensuring that all New Yorkers live within 2.5 miles of an EV fast charging hub by 2035. Next, we hope DCAS can update the committee on its progress regarding electrification of the city's fleet, including the mayor's recent commitment to electrifying the city's school bus fleet by 2035. We also hope the administration sheds light on EV safety concerns, particularly concerning the additional weight of the EVs. We are interested in safety measures which may be taken so that these heavy vehicles do not become a danger to pedestrians or other road users, and so that we do not pose a hazard to our city's aging infrastructure, such as the BQE cantilever. Finally, I would like to discuss how the city can optimize its use of federal funding to expand its electric vehicle infrastructure and help meet our climate goals. Recently, I joined the speaker to travel to the nation's capital to meet with our federal partners to discuss our city's infrastructure. We heard repeatedly that this city has not taken full advantage of funding opportunities offered by the federal government. It is imperative that we continue to seek this funding so that the city's infrastructure remains resilient against climate disasters. I want to take a moment to address Tuesday's tragic fire in Manhattan caused by lithium-ion batteries that tragically killed 4 people and injured 2 others. My heart goes out to the victims of this disaster and to their families. Lithium-ion batteries are now one of the leading causes of fire deaths in the city, and the city must have better oversight and regulation over these batteries before more people are injured. Before we turn to testimony, I'd like to thank my staff and committee staff for their hard work. Samuel Breitbart, counsel to the committee, Mark Chen, counsel to the committee, Kevin Katowski, senior policy analyst, John Basile, senior policy analyst, Nicholas Montalbano, senior data scientist, Jack Siegenthaler, my policy and budget director, and Renee Taylor, my chief of staff. I would like to thank the Taxi and Limousine Commission, who is not testifying today, but has appeared in council chambers to answer any questions we may have about the electrification of TLC-regulated vehicles. I will now ask the committee counsel to go over some procedural items and swear in the representatives from DOT and DCAS.
Thank you so much. I'm Sam Breitbart, counsel to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Our first witnesses will be from DOT, William Carey, Luis Gonzalez, Charles Ukegbu, and Miranda Alquist. From DCAS, Keith Kerman and Brent Taylor. And I know from TLC we'll be doing Q&A, but we'll swear in as well, Ryan Wantaha. I'll now administer the oath, so please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? You may begin when ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I am Will Carey, Assistant Commissioner for Policy at the New York City Department of Transportation. With me today are Charles Ukegbu, Assistant Commissioner for Regional and Strategic Planning, Luis Gonzalez, Policy Advisor, and Miranda Alquist, Director of Legislative Affairs. We are joined by our colleagues at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services and the Taxi and the Limousine Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on electric vehicle infrastructure on behalf of Commissioner Adonis Rodriguez and Mayor Eric Adams. Climate change is the defining environmental challenge of our time, and New York City is particularly vulnerable to its impacts, including rising sea levels, more severe storms, and more frequent heat waves. After buildings, the transportation sector is the second leading source of the city's greenhouse gas emissions, making up 28%. And 84% of these transportation-related emissions come from light-duty vehicles, such as personal cars and SUVs. Another 13% come from medium and heavy-duty vehicles, such as box trucks and tractor-trailers. Medium and heavy-duty vehicles disproportionately contribute to air pollution, including particulate matter and nitrogen oxides that are harmful to human health. To do our fair share to address climate change, New York City is committed to achieving carbon neutrality in the transportation sector by 2050, with an interim goal of cutting emissions 50% by 2030. The transition to a greener transportation system will also help improve air quality, especially in environmental justice communities with high volumes of highway and truck traffic. To achieve these goals, we are simultaneously advancing 2 strategies. First, We are doubling down on our efforts to encourage New Yorkers to walk, bike, take transit instead of traveling by car. We're implementing street improvement projects to make it safer and more convenient to walk and bike. We are working with communities across the 5 boroughs to expand our public spaces and make them more inviting. And we are partnering with the MTA to make bus service faster and more reliable. But DOT recognizes that some New Yorkers will continue to drive because they lack access to transit where they live, have family or work obligations that require it, or simply prefer to drive over other options. Our second strategy is to transition as many of these remaining trips to electric vehicles as possible. We are placing a particular focus on electrifying taxis and FHVs, as these vehicles drive many more miles than private cars and contribute more to greenhouse gas emissions. To that end, in January of this year, Mayor Adams announced the city's goal of transitioning all Uber and Lyft trips to EV by 2030. My testimony today focuses on the steps we are taking to advance the adoption of EVs by New Yorkers and our work to support TLC's effort to electrify taxis and FHVs. I will speak primarily about light-duty vehicles, cars, SUVs, light pickups, while touching more briefly on the medium and heavy-duty sector, as the transition to zero-emission trucks is in a more nascent stage and involves its own unique challenges. Deputy Commissioner Keith Kerman from DCAS will then speak to the city's progress in electrifying its own fleet. So what progress has been made on the adoption of electric vehicles in New York? Currently, there are 1.9 million passenger vehicles registered in the city, of which nearly 2% are now electric. Overall, EV adoption has been steadily increasing, with EV registrations increasing 44% between 2021 and 2022. In the last 6 months, EVs made up 7% of new vehicle registrations, a new high. And there are many factors that are leading to faster EV adoption in New York City. New EVs have much longer ranges than the first generation of vehicles. EV prices are decreasing, and there are many more models to choose from. The state and federal government are providing generous purchase incentives, and government and the private sector are making historic investments in EV charging infrastructure. This is very real progress. However, the city still lags the states leading the EV revolution, including California, where EVs now comprise over 20% of new vehicle registrations. Much of this disparity is due to the unique challenges of owning an EV in the 5 boroughs. Unlike in most American cities, about 50% of car owners in New York park their vehicles at the curb and lack access to home charging, which is the most convenient way to power up. In addition, private investment in EV charging has not been equitably distributed. Most publicly accessible chargers are in Manhattan and in inner Brooklyn and Queens, many in garages with high parking fees. To support the widespread adoption of EVs, the city will need hundreds of thousands of public and private EV chargers, with a greater proportion of publicly accessible units than in any other U.S. city. Ultimately, most of these chargers will be installed by private companies and individuals. But the city has an important role in jumpstarting the market and ensuring equitable access. Our EV charging program focuses on sort of 3 key geographies. Communities where the private sector has been slow to invest in charging, especially low and moderate income neighborhoods in the outer boroughs. High density communities where a large proportion of vehicle owners park at the curb and where there's limited off-street parking. And finally, communities where a high number of taxi and FHV drivers live and park their vehicles between shifts. To support these efforts, we are looking to leverage funding from a broad array of sources, including federal and state programs and grants, utility incentives, and from private sector partners. Before I dive into the details of our charging program, here is a quick summary of the 3 categories of EV charging, which you can see displayed on the first board. First, we have level 1 charging, which uses a standard 120-volt outlet and can provide about 5 miles of range for an hour of charging. Level 1 is really only suitable for home use. Then we have level 2, also known as destination charging, which requires a 208 or 240-volt power source, similar to, say, what you would have for a clothes dryer in your home, and can provide a full charge for most EVs in 6 to 8 hours. Level 2 is suitable anywhere an EV is parked for a couple hours or more, at home, at work, or while you're out shopping. Finally, we have level 3, also called fast charging, which can provide an 80% charge in 15 to 45 minutes, depending on the vehicle, model, and the charger's power level. Level 3 requires a connection to a 480-volt direct current electrical service and provides more of a gas station experience. For fast chargers, there are different plug standards. The fast chargers operated by Tesla use a proprietary plug standard, the North American Charging Standard, or NACS, that currently can only connect to Teslas. Non-Tesla fast chargers, such as those that DOT and DCAS has installed, use the Combined Charging System Plug Type, or CCS, which is the federal standard and is used by the majority of non-Tesla EVs. Which plug standard will become the dominant standard is very much in flux, as Tesla recently announced that it's allowing other automakers to adopt their NACS plug. Ford and General Motors recently announced that their future EV models will switch to the Tesla standard. So, first, an overview of our fast charging initiatives. On the second board here in the middle, you can see the current distribution of fast charging stations across the city. Again, given that so many vehicle owners in New York park at the curb, fast charging will play a bigger role in supporting EV adoption here than other cities. Better access to fast charging will also help to address range anxiety, a driver's fear that they will run out of power while on the road and have no place to charge. In Plan YC Getting Sustainability Done, the Adams administration committed that every New York City resident would live within 2.5 miles of a fast charger by 2035. Currently, only 65% of New Yorkers have this level of access. And you can see on the map that large parts of South Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens and Staten Island currently do not have that access. So, DOT is leveraging its network of municipal parking garages and lots to dramatically expand access to fast charging. We have 2 fast charging stations in operation at the Delancey Essex and Court Square garages, each with 3 50 kW chargers and 1 150 kilowatt charger. A 3rd station at the new Queensboro Hall garage will be in operation starting next week. And we are in the process of procuring 5 additional stations throughout New York City. We expect the first 2 at White Plains Road in the Bronx and Bensonhurst in Brooklyn to be in operation by the end of summer 2024. We also were pleased to recently announce a partnership with the New York Power Authority, which will fund and install 13 additional fast charging stations at DOT parking facilities through New York State's EVOLVE program. Each of these stations will have 4 to 6 state-of-the-art 150 kilowatt fast chargers. Through these investments by DCAS and investments by private charging companies, we project 93% of New Yorkers will live within 2.5 miles of a fast charger once these projects are complete. And you can see the much better coverage on the board. You see the Rockaways, you see Canarsie, other parts of South Brooklyn, other parts of the Bronx and Queens and Staten Island. These stations will particularly benefit taxi and FHV drivers by providing fast charging in the neighborhoods where these drivers live, including the West Bronx, Eastern Queens, and Southern Brooklyn. DOT provides a 15% discount to taxi and FHV drivers, and these drivers already make up 10% of our charging sessions at our Delancey and Court Square locations. Moving to our Level 2 charging program. One of the conveniences of owning an EV is the ability to refuel while your car is parked. With access to convenient, affordable Level 2 charging at home, work, or neighborhood destinations, EV owners can largely stop making separate trips to refuel. And since the average New York City driver only drives about 8 miles per day, many EV owners would only need to plug in every few weeks. Another advantage of Level 2 chargers in comparison to fast chargers is that they are less expensive to install, reduce strain on the electrical grid, and are cheaper for EV drivers to use. In most of the country, an EV owner can install a personal Level 2 charger in their own garage or driveway and do most of their driving at home. But as mentioned earlier, New York City is unique in that half of vehicle owners rely on curbside parking. This means the city needs a robust network of publicly accessible Level 2 options. DOT currently has 47 Level 2 chargers spread across 7 parking facilities and is in the process of installing 1,100 more across all 37 of our facilities. Once completed, the project will bring L2 charging to 20% of our total parking spaces. We expect the first phase of 154 chargers to be operational by the end of summer 2024. We are also expanding curbside EV charging access. In 2021, we began a pilot program in partnership with Con Edison to install 100 curbside L2 chargers at 35 sites citywide. We recently released an evaluation report on this pilot, the first of its kind in the country. We found that the chargers were remarkably resilient and remained in operation 99.9% of the time, and we found that New Yorkers are using them. In May, the chargers were in use 37% of the time, with some sites exceeding 70%. As expected, use varies across neighborhoods based on EV adoption. The Adams administration is also exploring curbside charging designs that take up less space and that are faster and cheaper to install. In partnership with the New York City Economic Development Corporation and New Lab, a technology incubator in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, DOT tested more compact curbside EV charging equipment, including chargers with a user-supplied cord and those that can be mounted on city streetlights. We are also exploring ways to leverage the utility work required for EV chargers to power micro-mobility charging options, providing a safe charging option to the city's 65,000 delivery workers. To make the public more aware of these new charging resources, DOT has created Plug NYC, the city's brand for its EV charging programs, and has regularly posted on its social media accounts about our EV charging projects, including when new sites are up and running. Moving forward, all chargers will include the Plug NYC branding, and DOT will continue to use it to increase public awareness. We urge the council to help us spread the word about the increased availability of chargers and welcome suggestions on how we can better reach New Yorkers and encourage them to make the switch to electric. Turning now briefly to medium and heavy duty vehicles. The city is committed to greening the movement of freight, and zero-emission trucks will be a key part of that effort. While the technology necessary for this transition is in an earlier stage, DOT and EDC are undertaking a truck electrification study with the goal of identifying potential sites for truck charging stations. The city also continues its Clean Trucks program, through which DOT offers incentives to truck owners to replace their older diesel trucks with alternative fuel or zero-emission vehicles. The program, which started in Hunts Point, is focused on trucks in industrial business zones citywide located near EJ communities. The city is also exploring ways to incentivize the use of low and zero-emission trucks through a low-emission zone in areas with the highest concentration of truck traffic and worst public health outcomes. Finally, on the federal funding front, Last week, DOT and our partners at EDC and DCAS applied to the Federal Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Program, jointly administered by the U.S. Departments of Transportation and Energy. EDC requested $15 million for the Recharge Hub, a first-of-its-kind truck charging depot in Hunts Point in the Bronx. DOT requested $15 million to expand our curbside charging program to a total of 700 plugs, which would make it the largest such program in the country. This effort would focus on historically disadvantaged neighborhoods and areas with large concentration of taxi and FHV drivers. The project would also include infrastructure to support the electrification of bike share and public micromobility charging, as well as solar-powered level 2 charging stations at 8 parks across the 5 boroughs operated by our partners at DCAS. We're also closely tracking other funding opportunities and welcome council member letters of support for this and future grant programs. As I mentioned earlier, these efforts will only provide for a fraction of the chargers the city will ultimately need in order to support over 1 million EVs. Charging on private sites will be essential. To create more chargers and expand access to EV charging across the city, we look forward to working with the council on Intro 150, sponsored by Council Member Brannan. This bill would require level 2 EV chargers in new, renovated, and existing parking lots. I now turn it over to my colleagues at DCAS who will speak about the city's efforts to electrify the city fleet. I'll be happy to answer any questions once their testimony is concluded. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Mayor Adams and DCAS Commissioner Don Pinnock, thank you, Chair Brooks Powers, for inviting DCAS to join our colleagues from DOT and Taxi to discuss electric vehicles, EV, and EV charging. I'm Keith Kerman, Deputy Commissioner for Fleet Management at DCAS and the city's Chief Fleet Officer. I'm joined by Brent Taylor, Assistant Commissioner for Fleet Operations, and who's leading our electric charging rollout. Through Mayoral Executive Order 90, DCAS is leading the transition to an all-electric fleet for New York City, whose current complement of EVs is the largest of any municipality and most states in the United States. Our goals are to electrify the light and medium-duty fleets of the city by 2035 and the heavy-duty and specialized emergency equipment by 2040. New York City is already on the leading edge nationally in fleet electrification. We currently operate 4,625 plug-in electric vehicles with 412 more units on order. By late summer, we will exceed 4,800 electric vehicles, and by the end of the year, 5,000. In fiscal year 23 alone, DCAS ordered over 1,000 electric replacement vehicles, and this is the pace we will need to maintain. New York City also operates one of the largest alternative fuel fleets in the country, with 20,000 units using some type of cleaner fuel alternative, including electric, solar, hybrid, and biofuels. DCAS is steadily expanding fleet electrification to new areas of the fleet. The city's light-duty vehicles are already well on the path to electrification, including over 1,000 EV GM Bolts, the largest program in the country. 25 agencies now operate 300 electric cargo vans citywide. These vans are supporting skilled building trades, park repairs, storehouse services, and more. We are now receiving the first of 150 new electric pickup trucks. Pickup trucks and vans constitute 25% of the city fleet, so this move into medium duty is very important to us. DCAS has also partnered with NYPD and other law enforcement agencies to introduce the first all-electric police units. Over 3,000 of the city's nearly 9,500 law enforcement vehicles are already electric or hybrid, and we expect to have over 1,000 plug-in electric vehicles in use in law enforcement agencies by the end of this calendar year. DCAS is also working on electrifying trucking. In partnership with sanitation, we've introduced the first all-electric sweepers, and we will also develop a plug-in hybrid sweeper. With sanitation parks and DOT, we will be introducing our first all-electric refuse trucks. With the Department of Correction, we are expecting later this year our first 3 electric correction buses. DCAS is currently bidding contracts for electric box trucks, electric general purpose trucks. On the off-road side, and the city operates over 5,000 off-road equipment pieces, Fleet operates 120 solar light towers, 238 electric forklifts, 230 electric utility carts, and many other zero-emission off-road pieces. The city fleet includes 120 on-road and 70 off-road types of fleet units. It is an incredibly diverse vehicle fleet, and we must tackle functions such as plowing, off-road and beach sand use, bucket truck operation, street and sewer maintenance, light and sirens emergency operations, and many more technical functions as we electrify. We must also ensure the continuity of law enforcement, fire, and emergency service operations, including during power loss emergencies. In partnership with the United States Department of Transportation Volpe Center, DCAS published in September 2022 the first Clean Fleet Transition Plan to review the full scope of electrifying a complex fleet such as ours. We found that 84% of on-road vehicle types and 81% of off-road equipment types either have an electric option in the market today or are expected to have one within 5 years. There are still many areas without electric options yet in development, including in areas of fire and emergency response and plowing. DCAS and fleet agencies are working with manufacturers to press for further market development in those areas. Electrification, of course, requires charging. Working with our partner agencies, DCAS is managing one of the nation's largest EV charging networks with 1,464 current ports. And we brought a map representing the charging network that DCAS is using, and you can see we are already establishing that you can have charging in every part of the city because we are operating today charging in every part of the city. This includes 1,170 level 2 chargers, which can take 6 to 8 hours to power a vehicle and are often used to power electric vehicles overnight. DCAS has also installed and is operating 183 fast chargers, 50 kilowatt, which can power a vehicle in 50 to 60 minutes. DCAS expects to complete the 200th fast charger this summer and is funded for 200 additional fast chargers each year through 2030. DCAS will also transition to faster fast chargers in fiscal year 24, moving to 125 kilowatt and 150 kilowatt units that can power a vehicle in 15 to 20 minutes, getting closer to the time period of a current fuel up for a gas vehicle. DCAS is also investing in chargers that use battery storage. These will perform critical resiliency roles in the case of power losses. DCAS currently operates 110 freestanding solar carports, including one right next to the municipal building, the largest network of its type in the world. We have 50 more units being delivered right now. DCAS will also begin installing this summer 57 battery storage fast charging units. DCAS will also implement 10 additional portable charging units this summer. Portable charging will enable mobile service vans to charge vehicles throughout the city and extend the range of existing electric vehicles. In total, DCAS will install 700 additional charging ports by the end of 2024 to get to at least 2,200 in operation by the end of next year. DCAS is also making use of the DOT-supplied curbside chargers and is working with our fuel card supplier to ensure that we have access to all commercial charging as that expands in the city. DCAS is working in close partnership with Con Edison to plan and install our charging infrastructure. DCAS is receiving financial support through the Con Edison Power Ready and Smart Charge programs, which provide offsets and incentives for fast charging installation and off-peak charging of electric vehicles. By the end of the year, we expect to have received over $1 million in support through these Con Ed programs. DCAS uses those funds to further expand the charging network. The focus for DCAS is electric charging for the city electric vehicle fleet. However, DCAS also currently offers 11 fast chargers at Parks Department and DCAS properties to the general public. These units have been heavily used over 22,000 times so far by private vehicles for charging in the last 2 years. DCAS is planning at least 16 additional fast chargers for general access in the next year, hopefully by the end of this calendar year. Sites will include public parking areas at Van Cortlandt Park, Forest Park Banshell, and World's Fair Marina, the Citi Field lot. DCAS is also working to focus electric charging investment in environmental justice EJ communities. We will install at least 50%, if not more, of fleet EV charging in EJ communities. For example, currently 54% of the DCAS fast chargers are in EJ communities. Prioritizing charging placement in these communities will expand the level of EV fleet adoption for those same areas. Ultimately, our goal is to reduce liquid fuel use as we expand use of clean electric power. Since fiscal year 18, we've reduced 4 million gallons per year, or 13% at this point, of liquid fuel use in fleet. At the same time, we have nearly doubled use of electricity in fleet vehicles from 2020 to 2022, and we're on pace to more than double it again in 2023 alone. Electrification offers many benefits. The most important among them is cleaner air for New York City residents and our municipal employees. Electric charging is a far superior experience to gassing up fuel cars, and electric cars are quieter and less prone to breakdowns than gas cars. DCAS is also working to combine our transition to electrification with introduction of safer fleet technologies, including high-vision trucks, telematics, intelligent speed assist, automatic braking, backup cameras, driver alerts, and more. DCAS is committed to achieving a fleet that is the most reliable, green, and safe in the country, and electrification will lead the way. I look forward to continuing our longstanding partnership on fleet sustainability with the City Council, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to add that we've been joined by council members Lewis, Farias, Lee, Narcisse, Ressler, Williams, Wan, Carr, and Brewer. And we're going to allow Councilmember Farias to give a statement on her resolution.
Thank you, Chair Sylvina Brooks Powers, for giving me a moment to speak and for holding today's important hearing on electric vehicle infrastructure. Transportation is responsible for almost 30% of New York City's greenhouse gas emissions, with most of these emissions coming from passenger cars. For the sake of our air quality, the health and wellness of New Yorkers, and the growing threat of climate change, it is imperative we do everything in our power to decarbonize our transportation system by 2050. Today we're hearing my bill, Reso 638, which if passed would call on the state to create a surcharge that would go towards funding the expansion of wheelchair-accessible and all-electric for-hire vehicles. The city has made significant progress in electrifying its own fleet of municipal vehicles so far and is continuing to install additional EV chargers for private vehicles. But without the proper infrastructure and the demand to meet the need to build the infrastructure, to keep this option realistic, our goals will soon just become an optimistic dream. Our drivers need an option to help them have a real chance to comply with our city's goals without it being a huge financial burden that could put livery services out of business and make it harder for for-hire vehicle industry to compete in this current climate. We also, sorry about that. I hope this city and New York State electeds take our concerns of our drivers seriously and see that we are far behind in prioritizing their survival in this sector, and choosing a green transition for for-hire vehicles is critical. Thank you to the co-sponsors who already signed on to this bill, Chair Brooks Powers, Councilmember Farah Lewis, and Shahana Hanif. I urge the rest of my colleagues to sign on to this critical legislation and continue to prioritize our green and electrification goals in New York City, and I look forward to discussing it with the folks here and our state electeds. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with some questions around federal funding. how many federal grants has the city applied to and secured to date?
Thank you for the question, Chair. As I mentioned in my testimony, we just recently applied for the charging and fueling infrastructure grant. We applied for $30 million in federal funding, $15 million for an EDC-led project in Hunts Point to create a truck charging hub, and then $15 million for DOT, with a part of that going to DCAS to dramatically expand curbside level 2 charging and for some solar carports. That grant opportunity was the first major EV grant opportunity that US DOT and the Department of Energy has made available. There's about $7.5 billion in federal money in the bipartisan infrastructure law for EV infrastructure. About $5 billion of that is distributed by formula to the states. So New York State is getting, I want to say, between 150 and 200 million of that pot. And if they'd be willing to share it, we'd certainly be welcome that opportunity to partner with them and do projects here in New York. And then there's $2.5 billion in discretionary funds, and the first round of those was the grant application that we just applied to. There are other federal funds, such as CMAQ and Carbon Protect, that we are also that are formula programs, so we don't have to apply for them, that we're exploring using for EV charging as well.
How is the state determining how they allocate that money?
So they were required to create a plan, and they are primarily focusing on fast charging stations along the highway network and filling gaps there. Obviously, we have highways here in New York, so we're hoping some of that money will flow to New York City.
And is the city coordinating much with the state to ensure that you're getting the funding?
We've certainly had conversations with them on that plan, and we look forward to engaging with them more.
Excuse me, I can add just a couple pieces on the fleet side. So Will mentioned the CMAQ. So we did announce with Mayor Adams $10 million going to 900 vehicles and charging back in January, which was tied to CMAQ funding. The Department of Education also received EPA federal funding for 51 school buses, and those school buses are now on order. So there's also a set of funding going to the fleet side.
No, thank you for that. You just led into my next question. So how much federal funding has the city received in total, to your point, for the electrification of the city's fleet? And how many vehicles has this purchased?
Okay, so right now it's $10 million of the CMAQ funding. It's 900 and change vehicles. I can get that exact number. We had announced that in January. It also.
When we say 900,
I forget the exact number. It's a little more
is
than
it 1,000 or million?
900 vehicles.
Oh, 900 vehicles. You're going to the vehicle
$10 million,
Okay.
900 electric
900
vehicles,
electric, okay.
and then about 200 chargers with that. So it also supported charging. On the bus side, it's 51 buses. I don't have the exact dollar amount that represents, but it was 51 buses for the EPA Clean School Bus Grant, and I know those buses are on order now.
And then equally, and this is for DOT or DCAS, does the city have a backup plan in the event that the city is not granted funds that you're applying for?
So we're taking an all of the above approach where we're seeking funding from multiple sources. So for example, we recently announced this partnership with the New York Power Authority. We believe that's going to leverage about $15 million in New York State Evolve funding for investment. We're working closely with Con Ed, which has a series of incentive programs that help to defray the cost of these electric chargers. And we've recently commented on their mid-course review. We're encouraging them to extend and expand those programs so we can take further advantage of them. And yes, we're going after federal funding. We're also looking at ways that we can potentially partner with private charging operators, because there is a growing and large amount of private money that is flowing into this space, and a lot of these companies are looking for sites. So there's opportunity also to leverage private funding.
Thank you for that. Moving on to equitable accessibility of EV infrastructure. As we continue to install EV infrastructure throughout the city, we must proceed with equity in mind. And New Yorkers, including those in the outer boroughs, are ready to embrace EVs, but the infrastructure must come first. As of today, most EV charging stations are located within Manhattan, despite vehicle ownership being concentrated in the outer boroughs, as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks. Moreover, EV charging stations are currently concentrated in only a selected few council districts. What is DOT's plan to ensure the EV infrastructure is distributed equitably throughout the 5 boroughs? And I know you showed those maps, but even with that, I still see a heavy concentration in certain parts of the city.
Thank you, Chair. It's a very important question. Equity is at the core of this administration's priorities, and certainly of my commissioner's priorities, and it is the core of our program. As I mentioned in my testimony, we are focusing our investments where the private market isn't going. So, for example, the Rockaways, South Brooklyn, the Bronx, Outer Queens, all areas where we're going to be opening up fast charging stations where the private market has yet to invest. But we're not done. This is a dynamic process, and we're going to continue to look for funding sources. We're going to continue to look for new sites so that we can continue to fill those gaps so that all New Yorkers have access both to fast charging and level 2 charging. And we welcome input from you, Chair, and from the council. If you know of sites in your district that might be appropriate, we welcome those suggestions.
Thank you for that. And you also mentioned earlier that there are fewer fast chargers in Queens, Staten Island, South Brooklyn, and the Bronx compared to other parts of the city. And considering that right now there's limited resources, how is the city ensuring the equitable distribution of the fast chargers?
So again, we're really focusing. We're looking at all our sites, and we have these 37 lots and garages that are sprinkled across the city, and most of them are actually in the further reaches of the city, in the outer boroughs, in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. So that's where we're focusing our efforts, whereas the private companies, you're really seeing them focus more on Manhattan and on inner Brooklyn and Queens. The majority, half of the current chargers, the private chargers that are out there, are Tesla chargers, and they've really had more of that inner core focus.
Thank you. Moving to EV disability accessibility. According to the US DOT, currently ADA standards do not fully address EV technologies, risking expensive retrofits or a lack of access for people with disabilities. For example, locating the battery in the floor of the vehicle makes it difficult to convert EVs for wheelchair users, and the weight of EV charging cables makes them inaccessible to some. As we continue to expand our EV infrastructure, how can the city ensure that our charging stations remain accessible to all New Yorkers?
Thank you, Chair. It's an excellent question, and again, with our focus on equity, that very much includes a focus on accessibility. With the 2 stations that we've opened, the one in Queens, Court Square, and the one in Delancey, Essex, in Manhattan, we put in accessible charging stalls so that folks who are using a mobility device have the ability to navigate and to use those chargers. There's an emerging set of new standards around what accessibility for these sites look like. We're tracking that, and then we're integrating those best practices into our projects as we move forward.
Are DOT and DCAS working with and soliciting feedback from the disability rights advocacy groups?
DOT has an ADA coordinator, Edmund Asayadu, and we regularly convene meetings on a quarterly basis with all the advocates and touch on a range of issues. I think this would be a good one to engage them on.
On the DCAS side, we too are talking with our ADA coordinators about the best way to design the chargers. I will add also on the vehicle side, since you mentioned that, we are beginning our first procurement of electric passenger vans, including ADA accessible passenger vans. So we are also looking at the vehicle stock, and this will be the first order that should take place in fiscal year '24, where we'll be doing passenger vans in general, be our first order of electric passenger vans, as well as having some of those be our first electric accessible vehicles.
Thank you for that. We've also heard that there are currently no EVs on the market that are wheelchair compatible. Can you confirm if that's correct, and how will this fact hinder the mayor's goal of electrifying the fleet? So I know that you have the procurement coming, but just like globally speaking.
Well, first, I mean, it's
And that's for also the FHV fleet.
in terms of accessible vans, we absolutely have accessible vans in the marketplace. They are going to be Ford Transit upfits, and we are working on an order now. So there is the ability to have accessible passenger vans, and we're working on an order. So I'm pretty confident that they're not fooling us on the order. So we're going to get that done. I think you can talk about the taxi side.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Council Member. I can state with 100% certainty that our commitments to electrification will never supersede our commitments to accessibility. We deal regularly with the wheelchair accessibility advocates, and we've made that promise to them. I should add one important clarification to the mayor's announcement of an all-electric Uber and Lyft fleet by 2030. The requirement isn't all electric, it's dispatching to electric vehicles or wheelchair accessible vehicles. We want to make sure that New York City remains one of the most accessible cities in the country, if not the world. And we believe that our electrification policies and our accessibility policies can live side by side.
And disability rights advocates have mentioned that unlike vehicles with combustion engines, EVs do not make as much noise on the street. This is particularly concerning for those with visual impairments who may not be able to determine when an EV is approaching. How is the city working on this issue?
Thank you for the question, Chair. We can get you further information on this. We do believe that some of the manufacturers have plans to add a tone that the vehicle makes so that people with vision impairments can better hear them, and we'll follow up with your staff.
Thank you. Also, I know there was an article recently about like the EV, well, really about the weight of cars just in general, but as we talk about the EV vehicle weight safety concerns, although there are profound benefits to the adoption of EVs, there are safety concerns, particularly revolving around the additional weight of EVs. For example, GMC's electric Hummer weighs 9,000 pounds and contains a 2,900-pound battery park that is approximately the total weight of a gas-powered Honda Civic. According to DOT, vehicle weight guidelines such as a vehicle would not legally be able to travel on the Brooklyn Bridge. What measures can be taken so that these heavy vehicles do not become a danger to pedestrians and other road users? And how will DOT ensure EVs will not pose a hazard on the city's aging infrastructure, such as the BQE cantilever?
Thank you for the question, Chair. This is an issue that we're very aware of and we're tracking. This phenomenon is sort of already we've seen it before when SUVs became much more popular than passenger cars. Of course, vehicle weights increased. What this really means is we need to double down on our Vision Zero efforts. Speed management, including our 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, is our best tool as it reduces the harm in crashes at all weight classes. So that means continuing street redesigns to encourage safe driving speeds, and our, continuing to implement our speed camera program to deter unsafe driving. But we're also advocating on the federal level. We're advocating to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, NHTSA, to make updates to their new car assessment program, and we're focusing on the risks that SUVs and trucks pose to pedestrians and other vulnerable street users. And we were glad to see that NHTSA proposed new rule requiring pedestrian automatic emergency braking systems for new passenger cars and light trucks. So, Keith, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I might add, so it's absolutely true that electric vehicles can be 25 to 30% heavier, and that can pose a safety risk. There are safety opportunities with electric vehicles that we're also trying to pursue, and I want to mention, just two. One, because there's no engine and transmission, you can redesign, especially trucks, and what we want to see them redesigned as is high vision trucks. So a traditional combustion engine truck can have 25 to 30 feet of line of sight obstruction for a driver. And some of the worst events, and the ones we really are most afraid of every day, are those line of sight obstructions where a truck operator cannot see a person, a pedestrian, a child. And so with electric vehicles, you will have that capacity to design high vision trucks, put the batteries somewhere else, the undercarriage, and then have zero visual impairment. So there is a safety benefit. Also, as we, potentially in the redesign of the truck, also as we are going to electrification, we're also starting to place intelligent speed assist, automatic braking, and other modern safety onto these trucks. So while there is the issue of weight, and that is a concern that we have to work on, and we're pressing manufacturers on, there are safety opportunities with electric vehicles, high vision, intelligent speed assist, so that we can potentially get safety gains on the other side.
Thank you for that. How will DOT ensure EVs do not pose a hazard when parked in older parking garages? How will the city enforce weight guidelines in parking garages? And how will the city enforce weight guidelines on its bridges and roads?
Thank you for the question, Chair. On the issue of garages, we have been coordinating with City Hall, with the fire department, and with the buildings department on that very issue since the collapse of the parking facility in Lower Manhattan. And I can follow up with you and your staff on the progress. It's an issue we're very much aware of and focusing on. And then the second part of your question, apologize.
It was, how will the city enforce weight guidelines on its bridges and roads?
So, we are not going to be changing our weight standards, as part of this. We're going to still require that trucks meet the same rules that we have. We're moving forward with first in the nation automated weigh in motion enforcement on the BQE. We think that could be a good model to ensure much better compliance. We're going to continue to take the steps necessary to protect the integrity of our infrastructure.
Thank you for that. Electrifying TLC regulated vehicles. So just 1% of TLC regulated vehicles were electric as of March 2022. How does TLC plan to meet the mayor's ambitious goal of having all for-hire vehicles be EVs by 2030? And are FHV drivers given any incentives to purchase an EV? And what about the yellow cab drivers?
Thank you for the question, Chair. To start with your last question first, we have not set up any incentives as of yet. I would lean on our driver pay standards right now, as the cost of vehicles may increase for electrification. We do have tools to ensure that drivers are paid accordingly. our driver pay standard is based off of expenses that drivers incur. So to the extent that drivers are incurring additional expenses, that can be adjusted accordingly. I think second and importantly, the requirement to electrify is being put on our high volume operators, Uber and Lyft. It's not being put on any individual driver or vehicle owner. So what that means is it's going to be up to Uber and Lyft to figure out how to incentivize their drivers to convert to electrification. So there will be no penalties for drivers for failure to convert. All penalties will be on the companies themselves. I'm also happy to report that since our last report, the number of electric vehicles in our fleet has nearly doubled to almost 2,000 electric vehicles across taxis and for-hire vehicles. That's up about 1,000 since last year. We have released an additional 1,000 FHV permits for exclusive use with electric vehicles. 600 of those were reserved explicitly for drivers. So that's 600 permits that we've released out to drivers specifically, and we're starting to see those permits become vehicles themselves. On the taxi side, it's a bit more challenging based off the operation models. We have about 40 electric taxis right now, but we're making progress there. We just completed our battery electric vehicle taxi pilot, and following that, we have authorized 5 models of electric vehicles for use as taxis. This is the first time we've ever done that, and we're seeing some slow adoption there, some steady adoption there. The challenges on the taxi side are a bit different based off the operation models. A lot of taxis are double shifted, so they need more fast charging than, say, FHVs, which can charge overnight, as most of our FHV permit holders own their own vehicles. So I'm happy to report that we're working with our colleagues at DCAS and DOT to increase the number of fast chargers where our drivers live, making fast charging and electrification a better option for taxis too.
And just a quick add-on to that, you know, we have a special discount program for our fast charging for our TLC licensees. Almost 200 folks have joined, and they're using it. 10% of our charging sessions are by taxi and FHV drivers.
But TLC, just kind of staying a little bit on the charging infrastructure, is the city building charging infrastructure fast enough and with equitable distribution and access to achieve this?
I'm confident that my colleagues at DOT and DCAS are building charging infrastructure with the pace which we can as quickly as possible. I'm also happy to report that TLC is installing 70 EV chargers at its Woodside inspection facility, 30 of which are fast chargers that will be for public use and use for our licensees. So we hope to have those as soon as possible.
And who will be maintaining and providing technical assistance at the relevant charging stations?
I defer to my colleagues at DCAS and DOT for the charging.
So for the DCAS network, we recently scaled up our own field services unit, including 2 project managers and 2 city auto mechanics. And they now serve, and they actually have an EV transit, all-electric transit vehicle as their mobile maintenance vehicle. And they are now maintaining the network, including the level 2 slower chargers, the fast chargers, our solar carports. So as we scale up this network, we did receive funding from OMB in this fiscal year and have allocated staffing. So we've built a maintenance program. We are tracking literally every day the out-of-service rate now for EV charging, just like we do for vehicles. So we have built up that program, and as the charging network grows, you know, we'll expand that program. But we now have an in-house maintenance program in place for charging.
And just to piggyback on that, in terms of access, with the 2 stations we have, plus what we have in the pipeline, we're targeting 23 new fast charging hubs across the city, so that's a dramatic increase. Those units will be operated and maintained via contract, and we regularly monitor, as Keith was mentioning, the uptime to make sure that they're available to users.
Thank you. And I thought you were going to add something. Okay. What is TLC's plan to bring an electric wheelchair accessible vehicle to the New York City market, and to ensure that FHV companies like Uber and Lyft rapidly purchase and deploy these vehicles?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I mentioned earlier that our commitment to wheelchair accessibility in our fleets isn't going anywhere. Our requirements that Uber and Lyft service requests for wheelchair accessible vehicles under a certain time frame are not going anywhere. So to the extent that there does not exist a wheelchair accessible electric vehicle right now, I can assure you that there will still remain wheelchair accessible service for everybody who needs it. Again, our agency's commitment to wheelchair accessibility is not going anywhere. We're obviously working with our colleagues at DOT and DCAS to encourage vehicle manufacturers to start thinking about wheelchair accessible electrification. One of the points I always make is every time we stand up a new initiative, if you don't have accessibility at the forefront, at some point in time, you're going to need to put accessibility into that initiative. It's so much easier to think about these things at the start of programs than trying to retrofit accessibility on top of it. So to the extent that we're building out our charging infrastructure, expanding the types of wheelchairs or expanding the types of electric vehicles out there, I think it's really incumbent on vehicle manufacturers now to think about introducing wheelchair accessible electric vehicles because we know that time is coming. They'll be obligated to, both morally and legally, I would imagine. So I would encourage vehicle manufacturers to start producing these wheelchair accessible electric vehicles.
In that light, I would encourage you to engage with the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities and the advocacy community because based on what I heard in response early in terms of engagement, it looks like the administration has not begun to engage with the disability community around this issue yet. And so I think it's important to have them on the forefront of the conversation as opposed to bringing them in when things are too far ahead. I'm going to ask one next section before I pass it to my colleagues to ask their questions, which is going to focus on trucking and freight. So during your testimony, you mentioned that the technology necessary for the transition to zero emission trucking is at an earlier stage. Can you elaborate on what you mean by earlier stage?
Sure, Chair. So in the light duty space, so for cars, SUVs, and light pickups, we're seeing a lot of models on the market. We're seeing prices that are now comparable to internal combustion engine vehicles, and we're seeing vehicles that have the same performance characteristics, the range that consumers are looking for. On the heavy duty side and the medium duty side, I think we're still a couple years behind where the light duty is now. In terms of medium duty vehicles, I think that's where we're seeing the most progress in terms of electric panel vans. You may have seen electric Amazon trucks or UPS trucks on the city streets. Keith, of course, mentioned the electric vans that the city will be purchasing. So there's been quite a bit of progress there. More manufacturers entering the market. And then on the third piece, when we talk about heavy duty trucks, I think that's where things are really at an earlier phase. Still discussions about how that technology, how EV can an EV semi truck work, and what are the economics of that, particularly for long haul. The other thing I would point out about electrification of the medium and heavy duty sectors is, those businesses will be much more dependent on charging on their own properties, fleet charging. And because of the size of the batteries that we're talking about for medium and heavy duty, will require a lot of power to charge their fleets. But manufacturers are making progress. There are new purchase incentives in federal legislation that we think will help encourage fleets to go electric. And then, we have our own programs which provide financial incentives, particularly to small and mid-sized fleets that may have less technical capacity to transition on their own. Charles, do you want to add anything?
Okay, sorry. The points that my colleague Will just made are clear, but the main thing, though, that we do is provide a freight program. We just released a freight plan that recognizes the need to transition to cleaner burning fuels. And also, one of the challenges we're having is that we do have city rules that require You are not supposed to park a commercial vehicle on the street overnight, and so these trucks must park in their yards, and then they need to charge at those locations. The other challenge we're having is, well, we talked about level 2, which is destination charging type of thing. For a commercial operator, they need fast charging. You know, it's a business, they want to optimize the bus. So that is part of the plan that we have here, to partner with these companies to ensure that we can partner with, whether it's private sector, and guide them in terms of getting them the incentives that they need, point them to the right areas. We also mentioned the CMAQ program. We actually funded, using some of these federal funds, I think most of you know Manhattan Beer in the Bronx. We got them a year and a half ago, we got them incentives by which they provided the first North American Volvo trucks that are electric in their facility. The challenge we have is within their facility. It's not publicly accessible. We want to make sure that we can democratize that process so that everybody will have an opportunity. That's really what we're working on here.
And DOT mentioned some specific goals the administration has set for EV charging. For example, that every New York City resident would live within 2.5 miles of a fast charger by 2035. Has the administration set any similarly specific time-bound goals as they relate to EV trucking?
So Plan YC made a general commitment to green the trucking, to green the freight sector, with a major emphasis on electrifying trucks where possible. Again, I think because that sector's a little bit in an earlier place, and because the responsibility really falls, I think, more squarely on a lot of these private companies, that we're looking for action at the federal and state level to move that along. And I think we've seen some very promising things. New York State has adopted the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, which will require the phase out of the sale of internal combustion engine medium and heavy duty trucks by 2045. And as part of Plan YC, we're also exploring the possibility of creating the first low emission zone on the East Coast, to create further incentives for and regulatory structures to encourage major fleets to go electric.
And lastly, the council has a bill, Introduction 708, that would require DOT to redesign its truck route network. And DOT offered its support for this portion of the bill. Would DOT factor charging access into any redesign of its truck routes? And if so, how?
Thank you, Council Member. In terms of the truck route bill, yes, we did testify regarding that plan that we're doing with regard to redesigning the truck routes. We do have as a consideration in that whether it is accessible to or really along those areas that are served that truckers use most often. But I also want to point one other thing out that related to the previous question, in that when we talk about the types of trucks that there are, we're actually looking at a network of services that can be done with regard to especially last mile delivery. It is one thing to come in with a truck, but then we want to have that last mile on the most sustainable mode in which we integrate it with the work that we do with cargo bikes, electric cargo bikes that can actually sustainably provide that last feet of delivery. And this is really an integrated way of looking at it. So trucks will go through the truck routes, but then for them to get to the last mile, they will use the most environmentally sustainable mode.
Thank you. Now I'll pass it on to my colleagues for questions, starting with Councilmember Farias, followed by Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, folks, for your testimony and answering the first round of questions. As we've been speaking about, off-street charging hubs provide charging efficiency, fully charging vehicles in minutes rather than hours, which we see as a major plus. This technology is expected to get even better in the near future. Is the department looking into private partnerships, as mentioned briefly, I know some were mentioned briefly in your testimony, to further expand off-street fast charging hubs across the 5 boroughs? And what does that municipal or public benefit look like if we are creating those partnerships?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember. The answer is yes. There is a growing interest and amount of investment coming from private companies in wanting to create networks of fast charging hubs. And in a city like New York, where real estate is scarce, there's a real interest in potentially a public-private partnership where with access to public parking facilities. That's something that we're taking a look at, particularly as a way to maximize the amount of charging we can get for the amount of public subsidy that we're putting into these programs. So yes, something we're engaging on and something that we're interested in order to get the most public charging services for the taxpayer dollar.
And as part of the fast charging hubs, could retail, affordable housing, public space be a part of these hubs, either next to, above, below?
You can put fast charging in a surface parking lot. You can put fast charging in an accessory parking lot to a residential building. You can put it in an underground parking facility. So yes, there is quite a bit of flexibility. EV charging, I believe, is an allowable use for accessory parking under the zoning code, and I do believe we're also through the City of Yes zoning effort going to be providing more flexibility to where these stations can go.
And just one final question, Chair, if I may.
Just in the interest of time, can we circle back to you?
Yes.
Thank you. So Lee, followed by Narcisse.
Hi. So, 2 things. Number 1, I actually own an electric vehicle, which I'm super excited about. And with that, I have some questions because with other folks that probably are trying to own EVs. But also, my district is 23, which is all the way out in eastern Queens. We're a transit desert. Councilmember Brewer herself just told me yesterday she's never coming to visit me because I'm too far. There's no public transit. There are no trains, so we rely very. She said never. We rely very heavily on cars and buses to get around. And I also, in addition to that, have a lot of drivers that live in my district. So I guess. When I look at your proposals, I actually feel like, in terms of how to expand, my district will qualify for numbers 1 and 3 under your 3 priority areas.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering also, because we have a ton of garden apartment co-ops, and I think I mentioned this last time too, where they are very interested in switching to EVs. However, the problem is that it's like the 2-story garden apartment co-ops, and so they're widespread out this way. They're not tall. Mm-hmm. They're very widespread out this way. So there's a ton of street space and garden spaces where chargers could be put. So I think their concern is, or what their interest is we'd be interested in having pilot programs here and see how that would incentivize folks to switch, because I think the large challenge is that there are no stations or charging stations nearby. So number 1, just wondering how possible it would be to look into something like that with the garden apartment co-ops in particular, because one of the garden co-ops I have has 3,000 units in and of itself in just one garden apartment. So that's one thing. And the second thing is for drivers, and if you could just go through this again. So for drivers who live in the district that are moderate income and work for either TLC, Uber, or Lyft, or perhaps all 3. How can they, what programs are there for them to be able to help with the cost? Because as someone who switched and had to install all the level 2, as well as, hire the electrician to install it the right way, it's expensive. So just wondering from your perspective how that could be offset in terms of those costs.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for joining the Electric Revolution. You know, we're always open to having conversations about potential sites to add additional chargers, and we'd be happy to follow up with you and your staff about opportunities within your district and to make connections to properties that are out there. So I would welcome that conversation. I'll turn it over to my colleague at TLC to talk about that issue.
Sure. In terms of assisting TLC licensed drivers in purchasing electric vehicles, the same federal and state rebates that are available to anybody are available to our drivers as well. As my colleague from DOT mentioned earlier, we do have the discounts for TLC licensed drivers at 2 of the city's fast charging hubs. And of course, I liked what Will said earlier. We could take an all the above approach in terms of helping find new funding sources for drivers to convert to electric vehicles. We'd be happy to work with your office on such initiatives.
And just to highlight a couple purchase incentives that are out there with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act in Washington, the federal government re-upped the $7,500 purchase incentive. And on top of that, there's the state Drive Clean rebate, which I believe is up to $2,000. And one of the good things also that the federal government did was, for the first time, add a purchase incentive for used EVs. So a lot of people don't buy new cars, they buy used cars. So there is, I believe, a $4,000 used EV incentive, which I think will help more moderate income vehicle owners make that switch.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Narcisse, followed by Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. I live in the Transportation Desert too, Council CM Lee. Mine is very far away. So I'm always concerned about equity in everything that we do in the city of New York. So my question to you, how equipped is New York City currently to properly deal with the disposal of electric vehicle car batteries? And where are we?
Thank you, Council Member. That is not an issue that I am familiar with. I'm happy to take that back and to potentially talk to some of our partners at the Department of Sanitation and get back to you with some information.
Yeah, because we're concerned about our environment, where those things are going. So the administration has said their goal was to announce that every New Yorker lives within 2.5 miles of an electric car charging station by 2035. How many miles does the average New Yorker right now as we live from a charger?
Right now, it's about 2/3. So that can be seen in the first map. 65% are within 2.5 miles. With the investments that DOT, DCAS, and some private sector companies are making, we aim to be at 93% in the next couple of years, and we're not stopping there. We're going to continue to look for additional sites, additional funding, and continue to work on expanding that network.
That's throughout the city of New York,
Absolutely.
Including my area?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
46th District. Okay. In September 2021, DCAS expanded on its goal to electrify the city municipal fleet, doubling its initial procurement goal, committing to add at least 4,000 EVs to its municipal fleet by 2025, and to transition all non-emergency light-duty vehicles to EV by 2040. To date, how many EVs have you been added to the city municipal fleet?
I thank you for the question. So right now, there are 4,600 EVs that are operating citywide, 4,625 to be exact. But we will, 4,625, and so that's about 16.3% of the total fleet. We will be at 5,000 by the end of the year, probably by the fall. So we just got in our fiscal year 23 late June 30th deliveries. And then the pace we're going to keep is 1,000 a year. So to get to electrifying the whole light and medium duty fleet by 2035, which is our goal, more or less need to do about 1,000 a year. That's what we did this year, and that's going to be the plan, to keep replacing at least 1,000, hopefully more, electric vehicles a year. So we are on pace with that. And to give you a reference point, we originally thought would be at about 4,000 by 2025, which is what you mentioned. We should be at 7,000 by 2025. That's really the new goal. Will be 5,000 by the end of this year and 1,000 more each in 24 and 25. So we have upped that goal and are really exceeding what we first announced.
And
Thank you.
oh, my time is up. Sorry.
Sorry about that, Councilmember. We've also been joined online by Councilmembers Rivera and Ariola. Next, we'll hear from Brewer, followed by Williams, with Farias afterwards.
Thank you. My district a little different than Councilmember Lee. So the problem for me is, yes, I think you're doing a great job on the city fleet, but individual. So I think I have 4 charging stations for cars. But you know what? Other cars park there, and then nobody can get to us. So I wonder how you're going to deal with that. And then the other issue is, I mean, you have 4. I don't know how many EV cars there are in our neighborhood. I don't quite know how we're going to deal, like you said earlier, with the urban congested areas. So I would like to hear more about that. I have been to some of the garages, the municipal garages, but I know there's one in Manhattan, and you have to park in the garage to get that charging, and it is a faster one than on the street. I just don't know how the street works. And then just the issue of, I heard the word delivery workers. I'm much more interested in that than cars right now, to be honest with you. I don't know whether we're going to be able to do the newsstands. There's quite a lot of opposition. So I didn't know if you had any other ideas about maybe we could work together, cars and delivery workers for charging. It's a bigger problem than the cars right now. I never heard anybody complaining about cars, and everybody's complaining about the delivery workers. We need charging. And then this last mile is a great idea, but I have no idea where to put the trucks that then bicycles or something else could do the last miles. I have no idea where to put those trucks. So I was just wondering if you have any ideas about these problems, which are pervasive.
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. As part of our curbside pilot, we put, how many units? In her district. We put 6 plugs in your district, and we view that as a start. It was a pilot project, 100 plugs citywide. Those plugs in your district are among the highest performing in the city. They are occupied by an EV plugged in, actively charging about 70% of the time, which is really good. We have done analysis. We've put up cameras to look at the frequency with which those spots are blocked. And it's certainly, this is New York. It does happen, and we know it's an inconvenience. But we're seeing that the majority of the time, they're either occupied by EVs charging or they're available for...
How long does it take? Obviously, it depends on how many miles you want to get, but approximately how long do people say they're charging?
My colleague can look up and see what the average charging session is, but these spots are designed to be more charging while you park. So maybe you're coming to the district for the day because you're working or you're visiting someone, so while you're doing that, you're topping up. Or maybe you use your vehicle to commute, and so you're driving out to your workplace during the day and then you're charging overnight. So that's the kind of the use case for those chargers. We are working with our partners at the NYPD, and we did create a new curb regulation specifically for curbside charging, and there is a $110 fine for folks who violate those provisions. The average charging session is about 3 hours.
Okay, and then the last mile problem with these trucks and deliveristas. Those are my other 2 questions.
Okay. In terms of the delivery workers, the mayor has created a task force bringing together several different agencies, FDNY, DOT, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, among others, that are very, very focused on this problem, both in terms of addressing the fire risk from the charging of these batteries.
I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah. But we're also looking at ways to create safer and more convenient ways for delivery workers to charge those batteries. And so we're currently working with New Lab, a technology incubator in the Navy Yard, to explore potential ways to provide public, safe battery charging for delivery workers who use e-bikes. We're hoping that the learnings from that pilot will inform the work that our colleagues at NYCHA are doing. They're doing a similar pilot on some of their campuses, as well as the work that Parks is doing in collaboration with the Delivery Worker Project. So.
Okay, I mean, with all due respect, nothing's happened so far, but I hear you. Parks Department is just thinking about the newsstands.
Right.
It's not going to work in my district. People are having a fit. And the NYCHA is fine, it's in a location. And then how about, we'll leave that aside, how about the last mile issue?
The last mile issue. Charles, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do with the micromobility pilots?
Correct.
I mean, excuse me, the
Microhubs.
microhubs.
Right. Yes, we do have a program that we're in active design. It's at an advanced stage. We've done surveys. The goal is actually to designate particular locations. Actually, let me give a little background. Most of us have seen, passing the street, we see Amazon, any one of these truckers, they're sorting goods on the sidewalk.
I got hundreds of them.
Right. And we're trying to do something about that by designating particular areas where these would be authorized for the sorting to happen in a safe area, and also they'll be controlled and licensed so that they can operate and they'll be held accountable for ensuring that they do that. But the best part of that is really that if they bring a truck, whether it's a 48-footer, they can't bring a 53-footer into the city. If they bring a 48-footer, they will transload into cargo bikes, any other means, and also there are people who use a trolley to move to the next doors for delivery. These will be what we call microhubs, and this is really an advanced stage. It's going to be all over the city.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams?
Yes, hello. I'm going to do the cheat code and ask my 51 million questions all at once, so please pay attention. Okay, I actually just met with the CEO of Revel, and so just wanted to know if DOT is in contact with Revel regarding their super hub stations. It seems very promising, as well as any other private entity that's looking to invest, I guess, a sort of a public-private partnership around EV stations, and I also agree around equity, and I've been encouraging the private sector to also look at equity, especially in areas like my district where it's not highly dense and it's a lot of single family houses, and some people are retrofitting their own houses, as my colleague Linda Lee said. The other question I have is around maintenance of the street charging stations, and wondering if we are learning from our West Coast friends. I know there's been challenges around maintaining the street charging stations, and as technology advances, are we able to make those changes swiftly? I know we're talking a lot about vehicles, but we know currently e-bikes are used a lot and have had a lot of issues, so wondering the plan around safe charging for e-bikes. And Electrify New York reports that New York City needs to have at least 40,000 LT charging stations comprised of both curb side charging and fast charging. Do you think this is feasible monetarily and logistically in 7 years? And I'm almost done with my 50 million questions. Do you think any changes are needed to the grid to handle the potential increase in demand, or is this a problem that can be solved by shifting demand? Learning from when air conditioners were first introduced, there was a problem around the grid being overburdened. So wondering what's your thoughts on that? And then last but certainly not least, while there of course is a need to increase the public charging stations, are there ways that the city can incentivize and/or include more stations in new developments without necessarily requiring it? We obviously don't want to create more further restrictions for people to build in New York City.
Thank you, Council Member. Starting with Revel, are we in contact? Yes. We're regularly in contact with them, and we are also having conversations with other entities that are interested in investing in fast charging in New York City, and we're looking to expand those partnerships and explore new ways to work with the private sector. You mentioned maintenance of chargers. I believe you were referring to the chargers that we have on our curbs. The 100 is part of the pilot. Those have held up really well. It was something that we were concerned about. We know that reliability is very important to users, but in our partnership with Con Ed, those were in service 99.9% of the time. E-bikes, and your Councilmember Brewer just asked about this. What are the plans for safe charging? Okay. But I spoke about the mayor's task force. A number of different agencies are moving forward with plans to try to create safe charging options. And the fire department is doing a lot of outreach and engagement to educate delivery workers about safe charging practices at home. Are the targets reachable? The targets that you mentioned, I believe, were in a joint city Con Ed report, and that includes everything. That includes chargers that one of your constituents may install in their own driveway, that private companies like Revel would install, that chargers that DCAS or DOT may install. We do need a lot, and that's why we're moving forward aggressively. That's why we have over 20 stations in the pipeline. That's why we're going after federal money, because we know that we need to dramatically expand charging to make this transition possible. You asked about grid capacity. I think in the more immediate term, we do see that there is capacity within the grid to accommodate the electrification both of transportation and buildings. But in the medium to longer term, this is an issue that we, the city, in partnership with utilities, in partnership with the state and the federal government, are going to need to tackle, both in terms of making sure that the energy that we're using is green and not from fossil fuels, that the grid has the capacity during the times of day and times of the year where we may see new peaks, and also making sure that we're as efficient as possible, that buildings and that we're taking advantage of energy efficiency to bring down our total energy need. More stations and new developments. There's an existing city council law which requires that a certain number of spaces in new or substantially rehabilitated parking lots and garages have conduit. And then we mentioned the bill that had been introduced by Councilmember Brannan, which we're interested in continuing having a discussion with the council about to increase those incentives and requirements so that there's more charging in those private sites, which we're really going to need.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Before we move on, I just want to ask if council members Rivera or Ariola have any questions. They can raise their hand on Zoom. Please raise your hand on Zoom if so. Next, we'll hear from Councilmember Farias, followed by Councilmember Narcisse.
Thanks. My question is hopefully quick. Just wanted to know, I have a reso here calling on the state to create a surcharge, and as we know, the city can't create taxes, even though we should be deputized to do so. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on, while we are putting the onus or responsibility or incentivizing private companies to figure out ways to transition their fleets or their drivers, are you hearing with the federal grants, the state grants, the conversations you're having, and there being an opportunity to actually help fund or help assist our current drivers outside of leaving it on corporations to do so, on transitioning their vehicles to electric vehicles?
Thank you, Councilmember. We look forward to reviewing your resolution that you introduced today. In sort of the broader context, I think there are a couple of things that are happening in the market that will be beneficial to taxi and FHV drivers. One is the federal government renewed the $7,500 purchase credit, and that can be combined with an up to $2,000 state credit for the purchase or lease of a new EV. And I also previously mentioned the brand new incentive for the purchase of a used EV. So those are all good programs. The other thing is, with the expansion in the number of models, we're also seeing prices drop. So it's not all about a $50,000 or $60,000 car. It's also about new models that are in the $30,000 range that are more affordable.
The only thing I would add to that is just any incentive programs that the federal government enacts for consumer use of electric vehicles would equally apply to our drivers. So what's good for the personal consumers is good for our drivers as well.
For the station, the electrical car charger station, by any chance, do you have where they're located in the 46th district? Because I have not seen.
So in terms of what's currently available, there's a great online resource called PlugShare, where you can see all the different charging stations that are provided, not just the city ones, but ones provided by the private sector and at the different levels. As you see on the map, one of the sites that we're potentially considering for future expansion of a new station is in your district.
Yeah, because I have not seen them. Maybe they in discard. I have not seen any, really. So.
Right. So again, equity is a guiding principle for our program. We see that Southern Brooklyn, Canarsie, not a lot of charging, and so we're looking to make investments there.
As a matter of fact, you took the word out of my mouth, equity. That's what we expect throughout the city of New York. We don't want to be the last in everything, especially in the transportation desert like my district.
Absolutely.
And CM Lee's as well, so many. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have two final questions for you, and then we're going to open it up for the public. In terms of the city's curbside level 2 charging pilot, former Mayor Bill de Blasio initiated the curbside level 2 charging pilot in June 2021. Under this pilot program, the city partnered with Con Edison to install 120 level 2 charging ports at curbside locations throughout the city, managed by the charging company Flow. How did DOT determine where these level 2 chargers should be placed? And does DOT track the usage of each charger over time?
Thank you, Council Member. So in the lead up to that pilot project, we engaged with members of the council. We looked at, we wanted to have a diverse set of neighborhoods to test. So we were looking at different boroughs, different types of neighborhoods.
I have one in Southeast Queens in my district. I don't have one in Rockaway, though.
Right. So we really wanted to test it out in different areas and different contexts to see what worked and what didn't work. And we did a lot of outreach to elected officials, community boards, and other stakeholders. So that was the first piece. And then, I'm sorry, your second question?
The second question was, does DOT track the usage of each charger over time?
We do. We do.
Okay. And then, would DOT consider moving a charger if it appeared underutilized at its current placement? Like, are you looking at that as well?
We're pretty pleased with what we're seeing in terms of level of utilization. And it's expected that there might be different levels of utilization in different neighborhoods. You might have one neighborhood where a lot of people already own EVs, so we're attracting new users. So we're attracting them to use them. In other neighborhoods, there might not be that many EVs, and part of the reason of having the charger there is to message, to communicate to the community that there's this new resource. So giving those communities more time to adopt EVs and start using them.
How's that marketing going? Because I haven't seen any signage or anything for it. So how does someone know where to locate a charging port?
People who have EVs often use these websites like PlugShare, which agglomerate all the different charging resources from different companies. That's one way to do it. We have done outreach through social media. We've done some advertising on bus shelters around our programs. And as part of the federal grant that we submitted, we're also requesting $750,000 to do a citywide public awareness campaign that would be both about the advantages of going electric, what the available incentive programs are to offset the cost, and where charging is in neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs.
Can I just add also that with regard to awareness and marketing, we also host the Empire Clean Cities, which is really a coalition that's actually funded by the Department of Energy and other federal agencies, that their main task is to improve awareness about clean energy sources. And they have been very effective in assisting us with that messaging. So that is a resource.
I'd be curious to know how that's being used, because like I said, I haven't seen anything. And, I think that you should look at it installing on signage and creating digital maps and those type of outreach efforts, and even using some of the ethnic media outlets as well to reach those hard to reach communities, but the ones that you're looking to expand into, that this is going to be very new to.
We agree that public engagement and outreach is an incredibly important part of this effort, and hoping to secure that federal money so we can really ramp up our efforts.
Thank you. With that, we're going to move to public testimony.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all. We'll now move to public testimony. Each panelist will be given 2 minutes to speak. Each panelist will be given 2 minutes to speak, and for panelists testifying in person, we ask that you come to the dais as your name is called and wait for your turn to speak. For panelists who are testifying remotely, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant at Arms will give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. Our first panel will be Ibrahim Ramoul, Julian Klein, Nathan King, and Zach Miller. Thank you. We'll begin with Ibrahim Ramoul. Please begin.
Cool. Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Ibrahim Ramoul, and I will be testifying on behalf of New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, or NYLPI. I want to thank the Council for its leadership on climate change action and for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. NYLPI fully supports Resolution Number 638, calling on the state to create a surcharge that will fund the expansion of wheelchair-accessible all-electric for-hire vehicles, or FHVs. As you know, New York City has a large FHV fleet, but only a small percentage of it is considered accessible. TLC's 2022 electrification roadmap, moreover, does not prioritize the these kinds of vehicles. The city then should seize this unique opportunity to both further its climate goals as well as bring fully electric and fully accessible vehicles to the U.S. market. Addressing this disparity should be a priority for New York. It's not just about electrifying, it's also about how we electrify. We are encouraged by DOT's stated commitment to deploy EV infrastructure that is tailored to best serve the drivers in the places they live in, that prioritizes the most disadvantaged communities, and that ensures safe, fast, and reliable charging. It's also critical that these efforts fully incorporate good green union jobs. Further, NILPI fully supports Intro 279, a bill currently before the Committee on Environmental Protection that would mandate the electrification of the full municipal fleet, including heavy-duty vehicles. These vehicles, refuse trucks being a prime example, have high emissions, drive millions of miles annually on our streets, and are heavily concentrated in environmental justice communities. We are encouraged by DCAS's stated commitment to fleet electrification across all vehicle categories, and we call on the city to ensure that all heavy-duty vehicle fleets, public and private, undergo an electric transition and in a way that is safe, dependable, that best protects environmental justice communities, and that maintains reliable service for all New Yorkers. And finally, Local Law 120 of 2021 mandates that all diesel and gasoline school buses be replaced by electric school buses by 2035. And while we acknowledge that DOE is not here today, we nevertheless urge the council to prioritize this transition going forward and to ensure that any budget cuts being proposed by the mayor do not compromise this initiative nor the timely implementation of equitable EV infrastructure. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Also, can you submit written testimony?
Yes, I believe that NILPI will be submitting written testimony. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next hear from Julian Klein.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Brooks Powers and Councilmember Williams. My name is Julian Klein. I'm the head of policy for Tech NYC, a nonprofit member-based organization representing over 800 technology companies in New York. New York City's future as an electric vehicle hub will have many benefits, including reducing emissions and positioning the city as a leader for innovation. We are expecting to see a huge increase in electric vehicles, as all new vehicle purchases in New York will be required to be EVs beginning in 2035. Nearly 11,000 new EVs were registered in New York City last year, and data from 2018 shows that nearly 1.4 million households in New York City own cars. There are also currently over 1,300 electric taxis and for-hire vehicles in New York City, out of roughly 100,000 total. Rideshare providers Uber and Lyft have committed to fully EV fleets by 2030, and Revel already operates EVs exclusively. It is estimated that there are currently 2,000 EV chargers in New York City. It is critical that plans to expand charging infrastructure incorporate where EVs, especially for-hire vehicles, travel and park. Fast charging will be needed most where vehicles need to be charged mid-trip, like Manhattan, while a mix of fast and slow charging will be needed for overnight charging needs of residential neighborhoods where FHV drivers live throughout the boroughs. Chargers can be installed curbside, in parking lots and garages, and dedicated EV lots like those built by Revel. We also recommend that the state uses portions of its $175 million in federal funding to build charging stations near the city's highways, which falls within its guidelines. Lastly, New York City TLC can exempt EVs from its for-hire vehicle license cap so that additional EVs can be licensed and purchased quicker. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with you as these conversations and plans progress.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Nathan King.
Thank you, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the committee for holding this hearing on electric vehicle charging in New York City. My name is Nathan King. I'm the co-founder and CEO of It's Electric, an EV charging startup headquartered in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. It's Electric launched in 2021 to solve a pressing challenge. As you know, New York City wants to convert gas cars to electric as quickly as possible, with equity as a primary focus, but no scalable charging solutions existed for the 1 million drivers who don't have access to a private driveway or garage. If we want all New Yorkers to have access to electric mobility, we must provide them with convenient and affordable public charging options where they already park their cars at the curb. We want to help the city meet its ambitious electrification goals and deploy 10,000 curbside chargers and electrify the rideshare fleet by the end of the decade. This is particularly important for the outer boroughs, where people are more reliant on cars, not only for their daily lives, but to earn their livelihood. It's Electric reduces cost, and expedites permitting by harnessing the spare electrical capacity from nearby buildings to deploy low footprint, curbside level 2 chargers that blend into the existing landscape. In fact, It's Electric is the only company in North America to feature a detachable charging cord, which will help keep sidewalks clear of obstructions and increase uptime by avoiding the need to replace damaged cords. We also share revenue from our chargers with the adjacent property owner to build literal partnership with the deployment of EV charging in these neighborhoods. Curbside level 2 charging solutions like It's Electric's have tremendous potential to quickly and efficiently expand charging access throughout the city, and we encourage the City Council to support New York City DOT's deployment of level 2 curbside chargers as an essential component of the New York City's electrification plan. Thank you again for your time and attention.
Thank you. And in terms of the partnership that you talk about, that could be with private homeowners?
That's correct. Any private property owner that has the spare electrical capacity and the curbside charging can host one of our chargers.
And if there's a homeowner that's interested in doing it, does the company help with the infrastructure to make it work? Because most of I know in Southeast Queens, the houses have electrical ports outside, but they're more towards the side or the back of the home.
Yeah.
So
we will do this at no cost to the property owner. We can make out the unit economics work so that we pay for all of the installation and permitting costs. And then, of course, we pay for the portion of the electricity that our chargers are using as well. So from the property owner's perspective, it's passive income. All they need to do is let us have access to their electrical panel to make the connection. And we're essentially leasing out that spare electrical capacity that they already own.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Zach Miller.
Good afternoon, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. My name is Zach Miller. I am the Director of Metro Region Operations for the Trucking Association of New York. Thank you for convening this critical oversight hearing on infrastructure for electric vehicles. There's a lot here that we have for our written testimony, so I just want to make 2 quick points in the 2 minutes. There is a serious lack of available truck parking for drivers to take their mandated rest periods. Across the U.S., there is currently only 1 commercial truck parking spot for every 11 trucks. In New York, this issue is particularly acute in New York City. If there are not enough places for trucks to park, that means there are not enough places for trucks to charge. Both this council and the Adams administration deserve credit for taking the lack of overnight truck parking seriously. Intro 906, which would designate off-street truck parking in each borough, is the first step to establishing depots where drivers can get their mandated rest and safely charge their vehicles. It will also create a safe space for drivers to stage overnight deliveries or to establish micro-hubs to break down freight and load it onto smaller vehicles, such as cargo bikes, hand carts, and smaller electric vans. I implore the council to view Intro 906 as a climate bill as well as a safety bill. There is also an opportunity to change signage and regulations to allow for overnight truck parking in industrial business zones. Charging hubs for MHDs must be identified throughout the state, which we've already done with our 21 IBZs located on truck routes where truck traffic is highest. This is the type of on-street charging solution that will work for fleets, and the sooner overnight truck parking is solved, the sooner battery electric vehicle adaptation can scale. The legislature in Albany has begun to seriously look at what is needed to increase medium and heavy duty charging capabilities. They took a good first step this session by implementing a statewide study of highway, depot freight, and public charging requirements. Next year, they must add to it by pairing this study with tangible infrastructure solutions, and I encourage this council to demand that they do so. Keep in mind that we are looking at an 8 to 10 year construction timeline to hit the necessary grid interconnection upgrades. While that project timeline illustrates the timeliness to be difficult, continued delay in this needed investment makes it unattainable. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Jack, for testifying.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Our next panel will be Jackson Chabo, Michael Sutherland, Catherine Voselka, and Raul Rivera. We'll begin when ready. Jackson Chabo. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, for hosting this hearing, and thanks for Councilmember Williams for still being here. We appreciate it as members of the public. So, my name is Jackson Chabot, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Organizing at Open Plans. We're a nonprofit dedicated to safe and livable streets. I'm here today to emphasize that electric vehicles are a net good and necessary for a green transition, but they're not a silver bullet. They generate the same amount of congestion as a gas-powered car creates. They still pose a threat to vulnerable road users, as you pointed out, Chair, especially due to their sizable weight. So, additionally, EV production has environmental impacts that are less green and that than they may superficially appear, especially perhaps outsourcing this cost to other countries and other parts of the United States. Instead of framing and focusing on electric vehicles as a panacea for transportation, we believe it is important to remember that in order to truly reduce carbon emissions and make our city as green as it can be, we must prioritize mode shift. Car-centric infrastructure exacerbates the climate crisis and makes the use of all other modes of transportation more difficult. Electrification is crucially important, but getting more people on buses, trains, walking, and using micromobility should be our main focus in making our transportation sector greener. Therefore, the rapid expansion of on-street curbside charging stations is not the answer. Our sidewalks and curbs are already cluttered and difficult for those with disabilities, mobility impairments, mobility devices, etc., to navigate. Placing copious amounts of EV charging at the curb creates additional complications for those using mobility devices to get around and further takes away public space from people not using vehicles, especially when we know most New Yorkers do not drive. The city should instead focus on building out off-street charging hubs and further expanding and funding other transit options, including bike parking, e-bike charging stations, and fast and reliable public transportation, especially the bus system, as we heard from Councilmember Lee, Councilmember Narcisse, and others with transportation deserts. So we believe that, again, EVs are not the silver bullet here, and we need mode shift most importantly. Thank you.
Thank you. You can submit that in writing, please. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, and thank you to Chair Brooks Powers for holding this hearing. My name is Michael Sutherland, and I'm the policy analyst at Open Plans. I'm here to advocate for electric vehicle policy that is centered around off-street fast charging rather than placing vast levels of L2 chargers curbside. In order to reach our electrification targets, the city's Electrify New York report estimates that we will need to install 40,000 public L2 chargers, including 10,000 at the curb, within the next 7 years. An expansion of this size will be costly and complex. Placing such a large number of L2 chargers at the curb presents a number of difficulties. For one, placing an EV charger in a curbside spot essentially locks in that use of the curbside. It becomes a parking space for only EVs, and due to the monetary investment of installing the charger, it becomes much more difficult to repurpose that segment of the curb for any other use. Further, the nature and scale of the planned expansion risks chargers being placed at the curb haphazardly, which could have far-reaching negative impacts on our streetscape now and in the future. We should instead center our EV charging policy around equitably placed, efficient off-street charging stations. A crucial first step this body could make would be passing Councilmember Brannon's Intro 150, which would mandate necessary off-street charging capacity in our city's garages. The city should also think creatively about a wider expansion of equitably placed, publicly accessible off-street DCFC charging hubs, and a program to encourage and facilitate partial or full gas station conversions. Such policies have resolved the negative impacts of curbside charging on the street and more closely mirror the current experience of drivers using gas stations charging vehicles in minutes rather than hours. I thank the Chair for providing this time to speak and look forward to working together to ensure our city has an equitable and effective EV charging program.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Catherine Veselka.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Catherine Veselka, and I'm a resident of District 6 here in Manhattan. I'm here today as a citizen, a New Yorker, and a bicycle commuter to speak about another environmentally friendly method of transportation besides electric vehicles. I want to encourage you all to revisit and revamp the New York City Code of Ordinances, Section 20-327.1. This section requires all parking garages with over 100 spots to create 1 bicycle parking space for every 10 car parking spaces. I would like to propose changing this law to be 1 bicycle parking space for every 5 car parking spaces. I would also like to propose removing the 100-car parking spot barrier to entry for the applicability of this law and to set a limit on the maximum monthly rate that parking garages can charge cyclists. We should change this law because according to a recent study by the NYC Department of Transportation, there are over 800,000 cyclists in New York City, and this number is expected to grow to over 1 million by 2030. The original parking law was enacted in 2008, and it does not currently meet the needs of New York City cyclists. The bike parking problem will continue to grow as time passes and the number of cyclists in New York City grows. I live in District 6, and my apartment is a 3-floor walk-up with no building bike storage. There are 7 parking garages within a few blocks of my apartment, and they all advertise monthly bicycle parking on their rate signs. I have been to all of them to ask about renting a spot, and the response I invariably get is that they don't actually have this bicycle parking that's advertised, or the bicycle parking is full, or the bicycle parking is $300, and also it doesn't exist. This experience is not unique to me. Other NYC residents have expressed that a lack of secure bicycle parking is generally the biggest thing stopping them from actually using their bikes to commute. I ask you all to consider my proposed change to the law on garage bicycle parking, and that these changes will make New York City a more bicycle-friendly city and a more livable city. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Raul Rivera.
Good afternoon. My name is Raul Rivera. I'm a New York City TLC driver. I'm a TLC driver advocate. I'm also a native New Yorker. I'm a little disturbed about what I'm hearing here in this room. We testified on June 7 at the Committee of Technology, and we brought to the attention of that committee, and we do it here now, about cobalt. Cobalt is a mineral that's needed to make batteries for electric vehicles. We talk about equity and color and white supremacy and discrimination, and we have children of color in the Congo mining for that cobalt so we can have electric vehicles here. The mayor, the TLC, the DOT, and many elected officials are forcing electric vehicles down our throats. They want to get rid of our gas stoves now. But everybody is forgetting about the children of the Congo. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on in this city. New York is not going to save the planet. I am disturbed that nobody cares about this. I try to approach the person from the DOT, the TLC. They just went running away. The children of the Congo, they can't go to school because they have to choose between mining for that cobalt so New Yorkers can have a green city. It's disturbing. By 2030, TLC is forcing drivers to have electric vehicles, and they're forgetting about the children of the cobalt. I don't know what to say to this committee. I don't know what to say. You gotta recognize that. You gotta call it out. You gotta recognize it. That's the legacy of this committee and all the committees. I'll leave you with a quote. Humans first, technology second, today, tomorrow, forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next panel. Lauren Kesner O'Brien and Samantha Ortega. We'll begin with Lauren O'Brien when ready.
Okay, thank you so much for convening this meeting today on such an important subject, and for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Lauren Kesner O'Brien. I am the Policy and Partnership Manager at Empire Clean Cities. We were mentioned during the testimony. We provide outreach about electric vehicles as well as serve as a resource for information on brand neutrality general clean transportation, education, and funding opportunities as the Clean Cities Coalition under the Department of Energy's Vehicle Technology Office. Our mission is twofold: to reduce transportation emissions and to reduce petroleum usage in our region. And I just wanted to put on your radar that we have applied for a couple of years now for discretionary funding to do EV outreach. We work with the Department of Transportation on their Car-Free Earth Day and share and have had incredible responses from the public, not just their excitement and interest in EVs, but also just, you know, feedback on what they want in their neighborhoods and, you know, doing education on how EVs work, what's the difference between batteries and, gas, petroleum powered vehicles. So it's something we love doing and there's a real need for, and we are a resource. So I just want to let you know that. And finally, one of the projects we are just about to launch is the Equitable Commute Project. It's a coalition of partners in New York City that is working to address the safety of e-bikes and e-bike batteries. We're launching a program in July, a pilot, where we're going to offer delivery workers an opportunity to swap out their e-bikes for e-bikes that have been UL certified. We are going to subsidize that and also are working with a local CDFI Spring Bank to provide low interest loans to delivery workers. So I just also wanted to put that on your radar and hope that we can speak with you about some of your questions as you develop programming in your community and can serve as a resource around clean education, clean transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes. Well, thank you very much for, can you hear me?
You can pull the microphone closer to you if possible.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for having me, and I'm going to speak on the resolution from earlier, creating the surcharge. My name is Samantha Ortega, and I'm here on behalf of Charger Help. And we are a women minority-owned company providing services in the greater state of New York. And we also work in partnership with some of the network providers and manufacturers that were mentioned earlier to provide the uptime data on the chargers. We are an uptime management and on-the-field equipment management company, maintenance company. We additionally partner with workforce development organizations such as Block Power for the growth and training of the local maintenance technicians. As was mentioned earlier by both the chairwoman and some of the members here, equitable deployment is important to address environmental justice, but so is equitable access to reliable chargers. It is crucial that regular maintenance and funding for maintenance beyond the warranties of the equipment is incorporated with all projects, especially to those, to protect lower income communities from disproportionately allocation of funds to more affluent communities. And again, I just want to emphasize the importance of high reliability of the chargers because throughout the US, 30% of the infrastructure could be inoperable at any given time, and lower income communities are most likely affected by that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to Zoom testimony. We'll begin with Aliyah Sumro, followed by Eric McClure and Michael Horachi.
Hi, can I go?
Yes, you may begin.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Aliyah Sumro, and I'm the Deputy Director for New York City Policy at the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thank you, Chair Brooks Powers and members of the Committee on Transportation for the opportunity to testify. I have submitted longer written comments. One of NYLCV's top policy goals is moving New Yorkers away from fossil fuel powered vehicles to fight climate change and improve the city's air quality. These vehicles are a major source of air pollution, which causes respiratory problems and is most often concentrated in low income and communities of color due to environmental racism. In order to equitably improve our transportation, cut down on air pollution, and fight climate change, the City Council and City must prioritize the following initiatives in City Council bills. First, we support the passage of Intro 150 sponsored by Councilmember Brannan, which would increase the number of EV charging stations in open parking lots and parking garages. This bill will make EV charging infrastructure more accessible throughout the city, since the majority of the city's publicly accessible charging stations are located in Manhattan. Relatedly, we urge the city to continue electrifying its fleet and coordinating with utility companies to not only expand EV charging infrastructure, especially in EJ communities, but ensure our grid is clean and ready for increased demand. We are also a member of the New York City Clean School Bus Coalition, and we encourage the city to continue making progress on Local Law 120 of 2021, the electric school bus law. Second, this year, New York City has an opportunity to modernize the city's zoning regulations by approving the New York City Department of City Planning's proposed City of Yes for carbon neutrality. Among the many components, the proposal would update the city's zoning resolution to support EVs by allowing charging stations in all commercial areas, clarify regulations to facilitate safe bicycle and e-mobility public parking, and it would unlock solar power opportunities in thousands of acres of parking lots throughout the city. We strongly urge the City Council to approve this proposal when it comes up for a vote. Third, regarding micromobility, we are encouraged by the city's successful rollout of bike share programs, and we advocate that the city continue expanding it, especially in New York City transit deserts. We encourage the city to continue rolling out safe bicycle infrastructure, and we support Intro 417. Lastly, the number of micromobility devices has increased, and we encourage the city to continue outreach and education, especially for people who are charging these lithium-ion batteries. And that's about it. I submitted my longer written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to Michael Horaci, followed by Robert Familiar.
Starting time.
Hi, yes, I know that can you hear me?
Yes.
The council will have a boatload of bills regarding electric charging stations in the coming years, but the micro mobility chargers so far have been overlooked. While mobility and sustainability are linked, electrifying private cars is not a cure-all to New York City's climate crisis. We need to take a holistic approach. Out of the over 120 minutes of discussion, maybe 4 minutes were devoted to discussing micromobility. 2019 Harvard Kennedy School published noted that the public costs of the vehicular economy are substantial, amounting to about $14,000 per family, whether or not you own a vehicle, electric or otherwise. The vast majority of roads are provided free at the point of use. As a result, more than half the cost of driving, roads, maintenance, policing, are subsidized by all. Yes, we barely subsidize housing anymore, but roads are highly subsidized. Transportation Desert Council people should be promoting more robust and reliable electrified public transportation than an expensive pilot that will serve a small fraction of their constituents. Converting gas-powered drivers to electric vehicle drivers, couple this with the prioritization of converting all drivers to public transit users. Let's emphasize micromobility. Shrink the fleet, DHL, USPS, UPS, FedEx, Baldor, etc., and electrify them at the same time. We can walk and chew gum. Remove traffic enforcement from the NYPD. As noted, some of the enforcement mechanisms discussed by Councilperson Brewer. Let's electrify and digitize all traffic enforcement. Additionally, we need to expand public charging infrastructure for all vehicle
Time
types.
expired. Thank you.
Charging. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Robert Familiar, followed by Samir Lavinia.
Starting time.
Thank you to the committee and Chair Brooks Powers. My name is Robert Familiar. I'm here to represent Revel, the leading provider of DCFC public infrastructure in New York City. We've submitted longer testimony from our CEO and co-founder Frank Rieg online. But quickly, I will go over our main point, which is that emphasizing DCFC infrastructure will have a more significant impact on EV adoption, especially for for-hire vehicle drivers in the city. Mayor Eric Adams has rightly committed to electrifying the city's fleet of nearly 100,000 FHVs by 2030. This is really one of the best immediate investments we can make in reducing transportation-based pollution, with one electric FHV having the equivalent emission reduction impact as 3 or more private EVs. And these drivers will predominantly need fast charging access. In its 2022 report, the TLC recognized that FHV drivers will use DCFC for at least 70% of their charging needs. Revel right now is building that foundational infrastructure. We have 40 public stalls open in Brooklyn with a pipeline including 60 stalls in Queens and the first public fast charging in the South Bronx coming over the next year. DCFCs are a more efficient use of finite real estate for charging. And so we would just encourage prioritizing that infrastructure build out as we look towards these 2030 goals. Of course, as mentioned before, equitable EV charging access is really a key issue here. 4 in 5 for-hire vehicle drivers live in the outer boroughs. That should be the focus of building infrastructure in the coming years. Revel hopes to be a partner and a resource to the council and the city in determining the best path forward for eliminating these transportation-based pollutions and improving New Yorkers' environment, air quality, and overall well-being through electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from Samir Lavingia, followed by Elizabeth Adams.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Samir Lavingia, and I'm a longtime safe streets and transportation advocate and a resident of Community District 5 in Manhattan. I just want to be clear here, the future of cars is electric, but the future of New York City is not cars. We need to be incredibly cautious when it comes to curbside charging, because that makes it harder to add bike lanes and other carbon-free forms of transportation. I encourage garages to have charging, but I think that additional curbside charging would be a mistake. I understand that many New Yorkers park on the curbside, I heard up to 50%, but that's not the way it should be. Curbside space is incredibly valuable and should be available for everyone, not just drivers. We should be moving drivers out of their cars, and when that is not possible, charging should be put indoors and not on the curb. We cannot and should not lock curbside use for the indefinite future to be for charging and parking. We should be focusing on e-bikes, e-scooters, and other right-sized mobility options, buses, and more, instead of cars that move people inefficiently relative to the amount of space they take up. We should create safe charging hubs for e-bikes like Uni is doing, or battery swapping stations for e-scooters like Gogoro has done in Taiwan. This promise was made by Tesla years ago, but never happened, but it does happen for e-scooters and e-bikes, and we should be going in that direction. We also really need to address the bans that are coming from co-ops, condos, and rental buildings against e-bikes. They are safe and efficient forms of transportation, but they are banning them right, left, and center. Some of them allow UL certified batteries, but not EN certified batteries, which are common in the EU. Banning e-bikes is a step backwards when it comes to clean transportation. I strongly encourage the council to not allow residences to ban EU or EN and UL certified batteries and offer battery buybacks for uncertified batteries that do cause fires and that have been causing the ones recently. And shutting down stores that are selling uncertified batteries. At the very least, they should be, the UL certified batteries and EN certified batteries should be allowed to be used using time power outlets and fireproof cases. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Elizabeth Adams, followed by Christopher Leon Johnson.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Chair Brooks Powers and the committee for convening this oversight hearing on electric vehicle infrastructure. I want to quickly speak to what DOT mentioned around increasing vehicle weights, as we're seeing a particular dramatic increase of EV SUVs and light trucks. And I know the recent parking garage collapse is on many of our minds. And so in order to address the increasing vehicle weight impacts of electric vehicles, the city needs to be looking at ways to both curb the increase of massive SUVs and also incentivize other modes of electrification. Otherwise, our roads, bridges, parking garages will be overburdened, we'll face significant street safety issues, and we won't be able to meet our climate justice needs. Electric cars and trucks are increasingly larger, heavier, and faster than their traditionally powered counterparts. The EV Hummer is at 9,000 pounds, while the Honda Civic is at 2,700 pounds. So the infrastructure conversation that's being had today we take very seriously, and especially when we're thinking about the wear and tear of our roads and what our current structures can handle. At TA, we very much appreciate and recognize that our mobility goals are directly tied to a sustainable future, and so it's critical that we shift away from vehicles powered by fossil fuels, and that we do so thoughtfully, and really appreciate today's discussion around infrastructure. And when we talk about electric vehicles, EV discussions have to include buses, scooters, e-cargo bikes, e-bikes, all the ways that people get around. And with congestion pricing on the horizon, the city really needs to help New Yorkers access green and sustainable multimodal mobility options that will reduce the number of personal vehicles that are crowding our streets, and that help people get around the city with ease and safely. That the more that New York City invests in multimodal electric powered transportation and its supporting infrastructure, the greater the benefits on mobility, on sustainability, on equity, and on
Time expired. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a full list of recommendations we'll submit for the committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Christopher Leon Johnson.
Starting time.
All right. Can you hear me, guys?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah. Hey, hello, Chair. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here virtually. I'm currently doing some campaigning right now for a candidate for City Council. But I'm here to make this issue. Thank you for mentioning the 4 people that passed away in Chinatown recently. That's horrible. Now I'm gonna say this right now. I know e-bikes is a vehicle because it's heavily used in the city. I'm calling for a full e-bike ban. This need to be banned. You know, Sabina Powers, the chair, no disrespect. You need to stop pandering to TransAlt, pandering to open plans, pandering to the Lost Liberties Unistos, aka the Virtual Justice Project, and pandering to the Tax Workers Alliance, including DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, and Uber for this, because this is the reason why those people are dead, because Uber and Lyft is funding TransAlt, open plans, Lost Liberty Unistos, and they're allowing this stuff to happen, especially the FDNY Foundation. They fund FDNY Foundation. Now, this could be prevented if we actually ban these lithium e-bike batteries, the big fat lithium e-bike batteries that's attached to the pedal bikes to make it go faster. If you wasn't allowing, and you and the Smith member of the City Council, including the Mayor Adams, wasn't allowing Uber and Lyft to buy you guys off, this wouldn't be happening. Those 4 people haven't been alive right now, because this would have been banned. And I think that you guys need to help push Bob Holden's bill to suspend these e-bike batteries until we do the proper research, investigation, and find a solution to the issue. Now, I know that you guys don't care because you guys are captive by TransAlt. You guys are captive by open plans. But I'm going to tell you this right now. 2025 is going to be the day of reckoning when you guys going to get voted out by the voters in New York City, because this is getting ridiculous. You guys just don't care. All you guys care about is doing BS press conferences, BS rallies, and BS photo ops about when somebody passes away in e-bike fire, but y'all won't do any solutions. We need real
Time
solutions.
expired. Thank you.
Thank you. That's enough. Thank you. That's enough. And I encourage you to watch my hearings so that you can know exactly who you're speaking to and what issues are of priority. I can also refer you to my statement that was issued earlier today regarding the work of this body that we've been doing in terms of the lithium-ion batteries. So we encourage you to continue to lift your voice in advocacy about this issue, but also it's important to be factual and not live in a fantasy world in terms of your perspective of what we are doing in this body. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next panelist in person, Anthony Willingham. You may begin.
Greetings, member of the committee and staff. I'm Anthony Willingham, the State Government Affairs Manager at Electrify America, and I'm happy and I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of expanding ultra-fast charging infrastructure in New York City. Briefly about Electrify America, we are the largest open direct current fast charger network in the U.S. and are investing $2 billion over 10 years in zero emission vehicle infrastructure. Last month, we celebrated our fifth anniversary, the anniversary of opening our first station, and since then, our network has grown to include over 3,500 chargers across more than 800 stations in 46 states and the District of Columbia. In New York City, Electrify America has 16 chargers across 3 stations. Direct current fast chargers, specifically those with charging speeds above 150 kilowatts and as high as 350 kilowatts, are essential to achieving widespread EV adoption and transportation electrification. They provide to the EV driver a recharging experience that comes the closest to replicating a trip to the gas station. Fast chargers can recharge a vehicle in minutes versus the perhaps more familiar level 2 charger, which requires multiple hours to provide a meaningful charge. This distinction is important because access to public fast chargers is critical to the viability of EV adoption for significant populations. To make the switch to an electric vehicle, apartment dwellers, residents who rely on street parking, and drivers without the ability to charge at home will need reliable access to public fast chargers. Fast chargers are also critical for the taxi and rideshare industries because their drivers cannot afford, literally, to be out of service for hours to charge. EV adoption in New York is slated to grow tremendously. This is not only fueled by drivers opting for an EV, but also the Taxi and Limousine Commission, rideshare companies, and automakers, each who have made some commitment to electrification within the next decade. The city's goal is to have, Electrify America's ask here is for the city to leverage its vast real estate portfolio to provide much needed sites for hosting charging stations.
Thank you. You could just submit the rest in writing. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. If we have inadvertently missed anyone that has registered to testify today and has yet to be called, please use the Zoom hand function if you're testifying remotely, and you'll be called in the order that your hand is raised. And if you're testifying in person, please come to the dais. Seeing no one, I will now turn it over to Chair Brooks Powers for closing remarks.
Thank you, and thank you to all who took the time today to testify, whether in person, virtually, or in writing. This is the starting point for the conversations in terms of the electric vehicle infrastructure. And as opportunities on the federal level and the state level continue to become available, we're looking forward to working with our partners across the aisle, across City Hall, in terms of helping to bring the resources back home to New York City. And with that, this meeting is now adjourned.
Ending webinar.